and ask them, what did you want to be when you were 6 years old? And how does that differ from where you are now? And all of a sudden, everyone in the room was like, what? We've never had lots of money as a family. We're not super rich. But they've always given me everything they could give me despite not having lots of money. I'm nothing special. I'm just a bloke and I'm just being myself. But apparently people seem to like that.
It's quite hard to break out of your shell and connect in a human way.
My legs were shaking, literally shaking. 200 people in the room, all turning, literally turning in their seats to look at me as I held a microphone there.
You nearly ran out of money and you had to go back to your 9-to-5 job.
I did. March the 23rd, 2020, COVID happened, and I thought, the client actually rang me up. She was like, Jack, are you sort of sitting down? I'm like, why? Why do I need to be sitting down for this? Yeah, all those contracts, they're all cancelled.
Nowadays, there's loads of brilliant ideas that don't get vocalized because the people that have thought of these ideas are introverted.
This is going to sound really weird, right? And bear with me on this. The best way that I learned to get over my fear of doing things like this is to know that nobody cares.
You are part of a team, but there's a story of betrayal somewhere.
I'm amazed that you found that on the depths of wherever you found that story. That's taken me by surprise.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 9th episode of the FMU Founders Mindset Unfiltered podcast. I'm joined here today with a guest who is in the top 1% LinkedIn storytellers and strategic leaders. He designs websites that not only captivates, but inspires the people. With over 16 years of experience and a huge 97.2 success rate percent, our guest here has clearly shown his dedication, but most importantly, his love for visual storytelling. Earlier this year, he launched his own marketing service called StoryTold, where he now works directly with clients, understanding their business and what kind of image they want their business to maintain in the eyes of the public. Our guest then uses this information and then creates a visual fantasy in the form of a website. If you guys want to hear the story of this storyteller, please stay with us in this episode, because without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome Jack Dyer onto this podcast. Jack, it's lovely to have you join us today.
Thank you very much, Albert. It's wonderful to join you. I was very excited to get the invite.
Thank you very much. How has your day been, Jack?
It's been busy, as I was just saying before we started recording. Like I've been spending the last 5 hours in meetings, non-stop talking. So if my voice goes a bit croaky and I need to have a drink, that'll be
Don't
why.
you worry. Don't you worry. It's a typical life of an entrepreneur. That's what it is. Right. Jack, isn't storytelling just a glorified version of copywriting?
Kind of, yeah. Except there's so much more to it, and it is a lot more in depth than just writing copy. Like, let's be honest, ChatGPT can write copy, and we've seen it do so on LinkedIn thousands of times a day. Everyone is, millions really. Everyone is using GPT. Everyone is doing the same thing. They're all thinking, I need to post something. I don't know what to post. I know, instead of using my brain, I'll go to ChatGPT. And everyone is the same. We're just seeing a homogenous community where all this stuff sounds identical and it's boring as hell. It's so boring. So storytelling actually cuts through that content and it's memeable. Content is just content and we don't really care about it. We look at it, we swipe, we move on, and that's it. But storytelling connects to us, something deep within us, something that pulls to our heart and makes us go, yeah, I've been there. I get you. I feel what you're feeling and I resonate with you. That's the main difference, being just storytelling and content.
Now, when you have a business or a client that comes up to you and asks you for help, how do you extract the story out of someone's business?
I love that question. The best way is, and this is going to sound weird, but bear with me, the best way is to make them feel uncomfortable, because in the comfort zone, when you're comfortable, you don't grow. You're just sort of sat there and you're doing the same thing over and over again and you get complacent and lazy. If I meet a new client for the first time, the first thing I like to do is ask them really challenging questions, really difficult questions that maybe they go, "Why did he ask that?" Like subconsciously inside their brains, they're thinking, what a weird question. Why does he want to ask that?" Like, uh, I don't feel comfortable answering that. And I can see their brains processing, like, he's asked me something really unusual that I wasn't expecting. I'm thrown off. I'm off my game. I'm out of my comfort zone. And then all of a sudden, they'll say something real because they haven't had chance to think about it. What they say is more natural, and they just come with their authentic self then. I find their personalities when they're feeling uncomfortable because they're not in their protected little bubble of professionalism or their bubble of perfection. And it's so nice meeting the real person, because when you meet the real person, it's authentic. You know who they are, and then you can help them with their messaging. You can help them communicate more effectively, and you can actually get to know them as people instead of the curated, perfect version of themselves that they think they have to put out. It's much more engaging.
Now I'm quite intrigued, and I need to know what type of questions would you ask them?
So I went to this happens to like people on virtual calls like this. But me and my writer went to London. We went to a conference, and the conference was called Digital Storytelling in the Data-Driven Era. And I was like, okay, this is a cool conference. Um, People stood up. They asked sort of, where are your metrics, and how much revenue do you have, and what do you think the next 2 years will look like? And no one cared. People were on their phones. They were literally going like, "Ah, la da la da, I'm not listening to the answer. I'm just checking my phone because it's boring. Nobody cares about those questions." I stood up, and bearing in mind, you might not think it to look at me, but I'm a really introverted person. I don't know if you can see the Lego Star Wars behind. Um, I would rather be sat in a room by myself making Lego Star Wars than in a room of 200 people with the spotlight on me. And all of a sudden, I stood up and got out of my comfort zone myself. I need to practice what I preach, right? So if I'm helping other people get uncomfortable, I need to be uncomfortable myself. So yeah, my writer nudged me and said, "You should ask something." And I was like, "Okay." So I did, and I stood up and asked them, "What did you want to be when you were 6 years old, and how does that differ from where you are now?" And all of a sudden, everyone in the room was like, "What?" Like, he didn't ask about a boring business question. He asked something really deep and meaningful. And it's not really that deep. It's just, who did you want to be when you were a kid? And there were three experts up on the stage, and one of them said, "Oh, I I don't, I," and she was like stuttering. And it was fascinating to watch because then she goes, "I don't know." And she laughed at her own nervousness. And then she said, "I think probably a teacher. Why?" And then the guy said, "I'll flip that back on you." He thought he was being clever. He thought he was like avoiding the question. And he flipped it back on me and said, "What about you? What did you want to be when you were 6?" And I said, "Well, I asked you, because I really want to know about yours. I'll tell you mine afterwards if you tell me yours first." And he goes, "Okay, I wanted to be an F1 driver." Okay, great. And the woman said, so there were two women and a bloke. First woman said teacher, he said F1 driver, and the third woman said dancer. And I then answered their questions well. I said, when I was a kid, I watched the TV show Firefly, and I wanted to be a space cowboy, quite frankly, which is why I have Lego spaceships behind me. Um, it all ties in. But ultimately, I asked the question to them because it made them uncomfortable. Not in a bad way, just got them out of their comfort zone. And because it challenged them. And then I asked, so how does that now compare to what we do for a living? And they were all data specialists and marketing people, and they'd lost that spark. Not one of them was a teacher, not one of them was a F1 driver or even a racing driver of any kind. And the woman who danced or wanted to dance when she was young stopped doing it when she was like 20. And it's like, it's so sad to see because they've lost their purpose, they've lost their direction. They've just started doing what they think they have to do for the algorithm, for marketing, for their jobs. What we need is more authenticity. And that's where you build in the stories, you talk about your past, you build in authentic things that mean a lot to you. Again, you've noticed this will be the third time now. I'll shut up about it eventually. But Lego Star Wars. I was a massive nerd as a kid. Yeah, I'm now bringing that into my office because it's a part of who I am. So, I forgot your original question, but like to be able to get people to emote and talk about like things and the questions that I ask, yeah, they're really engaging to inspire people to think differently. That's what it's all about.
I don't think it kind of makes them uncomfortable. I kind of it catches them off guard, and it breaks that bubble of the professionalism the stuck upness, and then you really do get to the core.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
So now you've asked these questions and you've kind of formulated a story of them in your head. How do you then visually communicate that through their website?
So once we understand who they are and who they're trying to be, we write what's called a brand discovery statement. So we create this brand discovery statement. We do like a value equation, which I don't know if you've seen any of Alex Holroozy's work. He talks about the value equation, but it's a lot of it is based around matching up like a Venn diagram of who their customers need and what they're good at. And then the third then like a triple Venn diagram is what they want to be and who they are. So merging all those things together, we then create the messaging on their website that is really, it's quite an in-depth process. It's not something you can just go, ChatGPT, do this for me. We have to actually use our human brains, and we do this in this really engaging way. We have lots of meetings about it internally. We get the client to think about how they actually want to position themselves, how their current marketing and what they're talking about is so different and so alien to both what their audience needs and what they actually want to be. They're just being performative. They're putting this stuff out because they think it's what their audience want, and it don't. So if they're just themselves, they'll attract more people to them. We do that on the website through engaging copy, as you right said, like content, through weaving a story into the homepage, creating a homepage experience. By the way, you said at the start a fantasy, like a website that's fantasy. Um, it does feel like that because so many websites are just this boring, stale website which are features and products and services, and they're boring as hell. And you're just like, come on, if you create something that's authentic to you, if you have a homepage where people scroll down and they go, wow, that's cool. And like they have those little moments where they're excited to actually use a website. It's like when you're a kid and you're playing with Lego. So, it's that fun moment. Yeah, that's, I've forgotten your question, but yeah.
The question was, how do you visually communicate, their story through the website? But
Absolutely. Yeah. So we do it through understanding them and through the content, and then also finding images and photos of them that match their personalities. Um, we don't use AI images, quite simply. I've had a few people reach out to me from AI companies, and I'm like, that's great, but unless you're going to be authentic, AI shouldn't stand for artificial intelligence. It should stand for authentic interaction.
now I know that you've had no problem with getting a nice website out for yourself, because I was scrolling through your website and it genuinely felt like I was scrolling through like a fantasy land. I was scrolling through and there was things popping out at me. On the first page as well, you don't have that much information on your top page. I think it's one line, and then you let the people scroll. Is there a meaning behind that?
Because simplicity is the most engaging form. Like, I don't, there's probably a better way I could say this, like some really impactful soundbite, but simplicity is more engaging than complexity. Most people shove their like websites full of all this kind of stuff that doesn't need to be in there. And that's mostly because if you're in a big company, uh, like corporations and all the departments like marketing want their thing to be on their own page, and finance and even cybersecurity and all these different departments want their space on their own page. If you're a founder, as I know a lot of people listening are, you have an advantage because you can go simple. You can create a really basic homepage. And I would challenge you on this call. I'm going to try and do one of those uncomfortable questions. Think about if your homepage was a blank screen, right? You just had an empty page and you had one sentence in the middle that said, "This is what I do and why it matters." What would that sentence be? Think about that for your own website. Start from there. And if you can nail that sentence, then and only then build out a few bits on top, but go back to the very basics. This is the foundation. If you're building a house, these are the bricks that you build on top of. But strip everything back to the foundation, blank screen, one sentence, sell your website, so on. That's it. And that's why my website's so simple. I purposefully have kept everything else further down in a really engaging scroll experience because it just needs to captivate people in that one sentence.
No, I can tell that you've clearly put a lot of thought into this strategy, because from what I'm hearing, it sounds, you know, quite you sound like an expert. Has there
That's
ever
very
been
kind
a
of you to say.
thank you. Has there ever been a time that it hasn't worked and you had to change your strategy?
I have mostly been um, because StoryTold is so new, we've got so far we've got 7 long-term clients. We've been going for 3 months. So far, no, it hasn't failed yet, but in the past, it did fail, and that was more to do with the business I was working with. As I was a freelancer, this was 7 years ago. Um, what I was doing failed simply because me and the person I was working with weren't a good fit. Um, I won't speak ill of him, but he had a few issues that like control issues that he wasn't willing to listen to the advice of the person that he'd hired, uh, and yeah, that's when it didn't work. But if you're open-minded, if you're willing to sort of work with a team who do seem like experts, because we practice, we know what we're talking about only because we're immersed in it so much. The word expert still feels alien to me because what we're doing, we know that it works. But if I ever get to the point where I feel like an expert, then that means that I'm not learning anything new. And it's so important to constantly be learning. You've always got to be improving your brain. And I want to get to like age 88 and still be doing new stuff. If I am lucky enough to get to age 88. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I can see why you say the word expert, but it doesn't really, I don't really feel like it, even though I probably am in some respects, but I'm definitely not in others.
There's always space to learn, and learning just equals, more knowledge to maintain in the future. What are the indicators that you see that might lead you to go back to the drawing board that you look for?
What, me as a story told or for a founder
Yes.
as a
So
team?
let's say something's gone wrong. That? How do you spot that damage spot in your business and then realize what to do and how to go forward from there?
I think if you're running your business and you're feeling overwhelmed or overworked and you're no longer enjoying it and it's just a grind, obviously we all have days like that. We all have days where we're not on the top floor and we're just sort of we're doing stuff for the sake of it. And no one likes paperwork and admin, and those days are rubbish. But the biggest warning sign is if those days become commonplace, even in the work that you used to enjoy. If you're running a business as a founder, as a startup, and you just find that every day becomes a slog, that means that it's not it's not necessarily that what you think is happening is happening. Like it might be the market is hard, or you're not getting new sales, or there's a whole load of different reasons you could chuck on top. None of that is probably true. The biggest thing to notice is, okay, I feel like crap. I need to just stop and realize why. And it's probably because you're not aligned with your business. You're just doing stuff because you have to be in a professional mindset. You've created this persona, I feel like. I'll sort of try and demonstrate it. Like what should be equilibrium, like is how do I do this on screen chat? Um, it should be equilibrium like this, but ultimately you're chucking more and more into the professional bucket and your personal bucket is slipping. And so there's that gap. And so when your personality feels like it's down here and your professional level is up here, you're always going to feel out of balance. So if all of a sudden you realize that and something's not working, you just need to realign your business with who you are as a person, work out what's important to you, bring elements of your personality into your business, drop the mask, stop communicating from a place of I have to be Mr. Perfect businessman. Just no, you don't. You're not a robot. You're not on ChatGPT like everyone else. And actually, I think that's probably a ChatGPT as a symptom, not a cause. It's great. Honestly, don't get me wrong. I actually love it, and I'm fascinated every day by all these advances in technology. It's such a cool tool. But the reason that about 5% of what we do is AI, and it won't ever go more than that, is because we use AI for ideas and for certain types of stuff. But then we add on 95% of our humanity on top of it. Um, it's because that's where the personal connection comes from. So sorry, the question was probably like, what are those warning signs? Um, yeah, if you're noticing that you're running your business and it just doesn't feel fun anymore, just identify that there's probably a reason that it doesn't feel fun, and that's because you're disconnected from your business. So you need to go back to that single sentence. Why do you do what you do? What's your purpose? Think back to who you set out trying to start helping in the first place. Like the best example I would give of this is politicians. They always get into politics to help other people. And along the way, they always get corrupted and they do backhanded deals and everything falls apart and they lose who they are. They lose themselves because they're chasing the money and the power and the fame, and they've stopped chasing what actually matters to them. So if you're chasing the wrong things, there's that misalignment. The money will come if you chase what's important to you. And yeah, being authentic, that's the biggest, like the biggest fix, the biggest plaster, the biggest cure, um, is to be authentic to who you are and bring that into your work.
Do you think that this works for all businesses, being authentic and being quite humanized, or do you think that some businesses they should just stick to strictly professional, using business English, and just being quite robotic, if you say?
I think, yeah, most of the time we need more humanity, especially in those areas where there isn't much. Like, I was writing a contract for an employee, as of today, in fact, which won't be the day that this goes live, but today, um, I've got my first ever full time employee, which is very exciting. I had to write her contract along with one of my team, and in the contract is a whole bunch of legal language that has to be there legally, right? But it's written in such a confusing way, and every single sentence is about 12 sentences long. And it's all like comma, comma, comma. Just put in little tiny sentences, make it readable. Sometimes legal things have to be convoluted and complicated because legal stuff. Um, but and even in banking, for example, Monzo is a great example of this. HSBC, Nationwide, Santander, Lloyds, all the big banks, they're stuck in the past. They're all communicating in the same boring, financially regulated way. And it's really difficult to break that mold, especially if you're so heavily regulated. You have to just follow what everyone else is doing. But if all of a sudden you realize, hang on, there's a space to be a little bit more human here, you're going to stand out ahead above the rest. So Monzo did that. They were one of the first digital only banks. They have no physical store, and everyone in on a Monzo bank account has the same sort code. Which is great because there's no physical store. Like if you have a Lloyd's bank account, you have a different sort code for every store. No, every single Monzo one has the same sort code, which is great. But my point is, that's kind of really. My point is that Monzo's tone of voice document, their brand guidelines, they communicate like you or I. They communicate in a human way, and they've ditched all the marketing speak. They've ditched all the like financial speak. They've broken out and done their own thing, and they're more successful as a result. Their competitive edge, ironically, was being human, being more human than other people. So we need that now, literally now more than ever because of AI.
Whether I don't know if you'll accept this or not, but you've always had that entrepreneurial mindset. You went from selling apples at Dean's Forest railway station to now putting in so much effort into into making sure that businesses get their stories told via visualization. First of all, I want to hear about this apple selling business. Tell me all about it.
I'm amazed that you found that on the depths of the internet, wherever you found that story. Yeah, I that's taken me by surprise. That's put me out of my comfort zone, which is exactly what I talk about. And you can probably see me going red a little bit. Yeah, so when I was about 8, I wanted a PlayStation 2. And all my friends had one, and I was the only one who didn't, and I was very left out. And first world problems and all that. But as a kid, you wanted, I wanted a PlayStation. And of course, I was 8 years old, and my £2 a week pocket money wasn't going to cut it. So I had to do something a little bit different. So my parents had an apple tree in the garden, just one. When we had a small garden, my parents aren't rich, like we didn't have an orchard, but um, and this apple tree was full, and it was wonderful. And I said, "Mum, can I pick those apples?" She's like, "Yeah, what are you gonna do with them? Are you gonna cook them?" It's like, I can't cook, but um, I could sell them." She's like, "Okay." And a lot of mothers would be like, "Don't be silly," and they'd shut that down. And in fact, for a few other things in life, like my parents, with the best intentions in the world, have always said, "Oh, get a safe job and get a 9 to 5 and follow the path." And that doesn't, that's not me. It's good advice, and they mean it from a nice place, but it doesn't fit who I am. But in this instance, as just a little 8-year-old, my mum was like, "Sure, why not? You can sell the apples. It's fine." Um, so she stood under the tree with a basket, and I would go up and I climbed the tree, and I just love climbing trees. But yeah, I threw them down and put them in the basket, and took them down to the local railway station, where went over the training pool there, and it was a little tourist attraction. It wasn't like a main line, uh, but I took them along, walked along the platform, and made friends with the train inspector and the guard and everything, said, can I come on the train and, give people these apples?" And they were like, "Sure." So, I took them along and, offered, what was it? I think it was, uh, 20p each, 20p per apple or 6 for a pound. And I thought that was a pretty good deal. People get an extra apple for free, and they just give me a quid. And bear in mind, the price of apples back then was like 30p an apple, maybe 40p. I was selling them for 20p. I thought that worked. Um, Clearly, I hadn't done enough market research. I just thought, well, let's give that number. But yeah, people loved it. And what I didn't understand at the time, I thought people loved apples. I thought, I've got a good product. I like apples. This is nice. And they're fresh. They're literally picked this morning, all the good qualities. I thought people really liked apples. Turns out no one cared about apples, but what they did care about was admittedly, not so much anymore, but I was a cute little kid, a kid wandering around, being entrepreneurial, trying something different. I stood out. I wasn't just getting a paper round like everyone else. I wasn't just like going and working in a shop. I was selling apples, and that entrepreneurial spirit has been with me my entire life. And yet, throughout most of my life, I've forced myself to fit into other people's boxes, to go to the 9 to 5, to have a steady job, to get to the end of every month and have a steady paycheck, which I don't knock anyone who does it. It's wonderful if you find a job that you love. And I had that for many, many years, and I'm very lucky. But I just think differently. I think in a different way. And ultimately, that's one of my strengths that I'm now trying to use for other people to help businesses think in a different way too, to stand out.
Now, from selling apples, you then moved to where you're at now, which is helping businesses again tell their stories with the websites. What's that one thing that's always, kept you going? And what's that one thing that pushes you every day to not stop?
It's a drive to be to be as different on purpose as possible, to stand out from the crowd. Like just 2 days ago, my designer photoshopped my face onto a sheep, and put it on LinkedIn. Yeah, you saw it. I'm very, very glad. Yeah, and it's just people were like, "This guy's not afraid to make fun of himself. I'm not afraid to look a bit stupid." And so many people are. So many people are like, "Oh, I can't post that because what if I look silly?" Or, uh, they have all these judgments, all these fears. I'm happy with whatever. People can like post pictures of me. I haven't put it out yet, but there's a picture of me uh, sat on a giant turnip, like a huge sort of cartoon turnip. And there's turnips floating around in the air as well. Again, vegetable theme, apple, turnips.
Yeah, there we go. It's all connected.
That's it. But yeah, like my drive is to, well, actually, there's a deeper drive. Uh, yeah, what drives me is the thought of building something real, something meaningful, something that creates real impact for people. Uh, And one example of that actually is recently I wrote a LinkedIn story about something really personal to her. She was very, uh, and I hope she's watching. And I have nothing but kind words to say about this woman because she's lovely. Um, she is really high performing, high achieving, previous lawyer, previous ping pong world champion kind of person, and maybe not world champion, but definitely in like a certain Olympic level sports level. She's very good at ping pong. Um, and she was always convinced she had to communicate like quite professionally and speak from a position of authority, and she couldn't show any vulnerability. After working with her for a few months, as StoryTold, we said that she's no longer a client. Um, we helped her to put out some personal posts, and we challenged her to think about how to really help people resonate and create lasting connections with people that are actually meaningful, not just I'm a business person, I'm going to talk in a business person way, boring, right? We helped her to communicate more humanly, and yeah, she shared something deeply, deeply personal about her life, and it was a disability that her husband has, and he was diagnosed with it at age 37. Most people get it when they're in their 60s, and it's horrible. So, to share that, we were like, I'm amazed that we've got through to you. This is great, but are you sure you don't want to start off a little bit smaller? You sure you don't want to share something a little bit less personal? And she was like, nope, let's go for it. So we did. And all of a sudden, she went from like 50 likes per post, about 10 comments, and maybe one repost, to 780 reactions of post, and like 150, 160 comments, and 7 or 8 reposts. And that's great. The metrics are fine. She obviously massive, right? Going from 50 to 780, huge. But that's not what's important. The most important thing is that we helped her to communicate something personal. She had a bunch of people, including people in her community, actually real life community, come up to her and say, my husband has this like disability too, this thing that's affecting him too, and I would love it if you can come speak at our event, and I would love if you can help other people in our community. We've had other people write newsletters about her, just from the stuff that we've written. In fact, my favorite copywriter, uh, turns out people can have a favorite copywriter. Mine is a woman called Mikal, in New York, and she charges like $12,000 per page. Mental. It's a lot of money. Yeah, but so she's very, very good at what she does, and she's just one of the best. She commented on my client's writing, and I wrote it. So she was like, "Wow, this is incredible. I'm really proud that you shared that. Thank you. Please let me know if I can help." Basically, the impact that we had on this one client, it goes well beyond the metrics and numbers and figures. We actually helped her in real life with her husband, and people have come up to her and said, "I cried reading that." They cried because, like, in terms of relating to something about her life because of something I wrote, and that's incredibly touching. So to have that level of impact is amazing. That's why I do this. That's what drives me, because it's not just, I'm not in this for me. I create a StoryTold as a vassal, as like a, a vehicle to help other people, because we help you tell your story. We get your story told. That's literally why it's called that. Um, it's not about us. So yeah, that's the thing that I love most about what I do. And also the fact that I've got this little team that's come to me, all because I've been being authentic. They've been gravitating towards me. Um, I'm nothing special. I'm just a bloke and I'm just being myself. But apparently people seem to like that. So that's kind of nice. But the biggest thing that drives me every day is the fact that my parents have been so lovely to me growing up. They provided a safe, nurturing environment. A lot of people, um, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. And I've been friends with a lot of people who have difficult home lives. Uh, I've seen a lot of people who have struggled with parents who have been abusive and neglectful, and I'm constantly grateful for the fact that my parents weren't. They were supportive and loving, and there's nothing I can really do to repay them for that, except make my business a success, help as many people as I can. And eventually, when they retire, which isn't too long away now, so I'm hoping that, hopefully I can reach this goal soon. But um, I want to buy them a retirement home in Portugal. Just nothing fancy, just by the sea. Um, a lovely retirement home, ideally with running water and electric, that can support them, and they can spend 6 months of the year, if not more, by the ocean. We've never had lots of money as a family. We're not super rich, but they've always given me everything they could give me, despite not having lots of money. So I'm always going to be grateful to them, and I want to give them a retirement that matters.
No, I think I can speak on behalf of most entrepreneurs nowadays. I think most of us have that same goal of repaying our parents and just giving them what they've given us. But then again, can we ever do that in this lifetime? I don't think so.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's going to be hard. But as you mentioned before, it's quite hard to break out of your shell and connect in a human way to the people of the public. If someone came up to you and asked you for that help, what's one piece of advice you'd tell them? Because clearly you have the evidence that it does work. So what would you tell them, and what advice would you give them to do so?
Context first, is this in person or online?
This can be, let's go with in person.
Someone just came up to me, like say at an event or something, and maybe I was doing some public speaking and they came up to me afterwards. I would say, whatever you wanted to be as a kid, whatever drives you, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're interested in, whatever the you is underneath all the business crap that's just on top of it that you think you have to be all the time, remove the crap and just communicate like yourself. Be you, be authentic. If you're a bit of a weirdo, good, because we need more weirdos. Like weirdos actually cut through the noise because we notice them. They're important. And obviously, I'm not saying be a full on weirdo and go on rampage, but if you've got an aspect to your personality that you're proud about and you're happy to share, share it. Just be yourself because you'll attract more people to you who are like you. You'll create this sort of like community of like-minded people. You'll create true fans. Like if you're yourself and you're honest about who you are, more people can see that and they can believe it and they can know this guy's for real. Like there's nothing more attractive. I don't mean like, sort of attractive in a like sexual way. I literally just mean human attraction. Um, Nothing is more attractive to other humans than being authentic, being yourself, being real. Um, and also nowadays, we're learning to spot BS a mile away. Because of all the AI stuff, we've got a BS detector that's always on alert. So when someone is being real, they get noticed. Yeah, that's really important.
Now, Jack, I believe that at one point you were building tree houses and you were trying to sell stop motion Lego movies as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Um, I and that does actually tie into what I'm doing now, actually. So I'll get onto that in a sec. Um, that question, what did you want to be when you were six? And how does that tie into what you do now? I'm now starting to live into what I wanted to be when I was six, which is why this is so impactful and this company and why it means the world to me. Um, but my dad and I built a treehouse when I was a kid. Again, supported parent, really lucky. Um, it wasn't a great tree house. It was kind of more of a tree platform. Literally just a couple of, wasn't even a ladder really. It was just like a few planks of wood nailed into the side of a tree, and you step on the planks of wood.
If it
But then
works, it
on top of
works.
that, exactly right. You don't need a full on ladder. Don't need to go to B&Q or whatever. But uh, yeah, we created something simple. I had a platform, and I think there might have been a couple of like panels either side that looked a little bit like a treehouse, but that was fun. But I also used to go and build dens. We had very lucky to always live in the countryside, so we had the Forest of Dean, beautiful area. If anyone's listening, visit the Forest of Dean in England because it's truly beautiful. Harry Potter was filmed there. Some films in Star Wars, Merlin, Doctor Who, Robin Hood, all filmed in the Forest of Dean. Go and see it; it's amazing. Anyway, I was very grateful to have lived there when I was growing up, and also it sounds I painted a beautiful picture there, but yeah, it's not an overly expensive place to live either. So yeah, always good to live there. Um, yeah, I would spend my time in like building dens in the forest, getting old sticks, like gathering them up, kind of like Bear Grylls, I guess, just with the knowledge that I can go home to my house afterwards and not have to live on cockroaches and things. Uh, but yeah, that was fun. Childhood well spent, I think. Actually being a child, right? This makes me so sad that technology is advancing so quickly that you now see 3-year-olds with iPads. And you're like, oh, come on, just be a child. Like, enjoy childhood because when you're an adult, all you want in life is more time. All you want is to look back and go, if I could be a child again, I would. And
Take it in a
it's
heartbeat.
yeah, exactly, right? Like, we all take it for granted, though. When we're kids, we can't wait to grow up. Oh, I can't wait to drive. And driving's great, and I love driving. But I wish I could be a kid who didn't know how to drive so that I had that all ahead of me. Um, but yeah, the other thing, what was the second part? Tree houses
The
and
stop motion Lego movies. You tried to
yes,
sell
so
them.
I did. So, yeah, my YouTube channel that is long, long forgotten, and the last time I posted anything was 14, maybe 15 years ago, when YouTube was just a baby itself. Um, I used to make stick figure animations, which are on YouTube, and stop motion Lego. Again, not the Lego, but I was always I had my parents' old Hitachi camcorder, so a really sort of, um, at the time, it probably would have been a couple of hundred quid, but now they're probably like 30, whatever. Um, Now, this was a proper camcorder, like a big chunky one, which today's standards would be, several £1,000s worth of film equipment, or you get a cheap point and shoot, whatever. Um, yeah, I took little clips, and I say how it was such a big camcorder because I couldn't just it wasn't a simple thing to use. If I had a little camera or even just, a phone, I could just do tick, tick, done, and do the stop motion with pictures, and that's how most stop motion is done. I had to do, like, recording. This is a video camera and do, like, start, stop, and then, okay, so there'd be, like, half a second of footage. Yeah, and then exactly, like, and then you go start, stop again and do that all day. It would take about maybe 8 hours to film 20 seconds worth of footage. Um, and it was so nerdy and also so fun because, yeah, I just loved it. And you just get little Lego figures. In fact, you've got one on your desk right here. You would just like, you would move them literally like their little foot. Okay. And then the next scene, you'd move it like that. And then again, and it's so tedious. But when you're doing that, it's really engaging, really rewarding, and at the end, you feel like you've actually achieved something because you've wasted an entire day playing with Lego. Um, but I made these. I put them onto video cassettes and even bought a back in the day a video cassette to video cassette duplication machine. So you film something on a tape or film something, put it on a tape, and then you play it, and you couldn't just copy and paste like today. You had to let the entire video roll round. I sound like I'm a dinosaur speaking, to you. I was going to say, I don't know how old you are, but you're definitely a lot younger than I am. Yeah, like you play the video all day and then you set play, set record, and then the empty video, sorry, fills up and it's all the magnetic tape that spins round and literally sound like a grandpa. But it was really cool. And then I would try and sell that separate copy. No one wanted it, but, just 'cause, I didn't really know who I was selling it to or who would even care about my little figures. But as soon as YouTube came out, I evolved to stick figure animation, and that was much more engaging, much more, like, easy to access. People could just go, "Oh, stick figure animation, YouTube. Oh, there's Jack's thing. That's cool." Like, you know, didn't make any money off it, but, yeah, that was kind of fun. And now, tying it into now StoryTold, um all my life, I've been a graphic designer, designing graphics, websites, like even print material, business cards, all kinds of things, all static, no motion involved. Now, though, I'm doing podcasts like this. I'm putting myself out there on videos. Uh, I'm doing content shoot days, not just for myself and my team, but with clients. And we're doing video editing. I've got Final Cut Pro. I'm learning how to do that. Again, always learning new skills. I've got a video editing team at StoryTold, who I work with. And our clients are getting the benefit of that, which is very exciting. But I'm now more of an art director rather than the person doing the editing. So we would go to the client, we'd do the photo shoot, the video shoot, we'd ask them a bunch of questions, we'd make them into shorts, we take short clippets and turn them into YouTube shorts for them. My video editors then go and create all the captions and the subtitles, and then we add some copyright free music and put it on and then publish it. It's all the whole process. But the aim is that we only show things that are authentic. We talk to our clients about authentic things that mean the world to them, and we showcase them. We get their voices heard. We get their story told, and it's such a you can probably tell in my voice, I'm just so excited to be doing what I'm doing. It's fun.
Now, clearly, this you can say that this all came from your love of stop motion, and you've taken things from those days when you were making stop motion movies, and you've kind of incorporated it into what you're doing now. The funny thing is, you say you're a lot older than me, but I'm sure we have the same childhood because I also used to make stop motion movies. And what I do is I'll get a book and I'll get a candlestick and I'll make them fight each other. I might put some eyes on there, get some text on there. Oh, I love doing it. It was one of my favorite things to do back when I was 9 years old. It was amazing. But for me, it's the fact that if I tried to sell it like you did and no one wanted it, it kind of, I don't know, as an 8-year old, 9-year old child, it kind of made me cry. It made me upset. Did it not dishearten you when you tried to sell it and you realized that no one wanted it?
I think, by that point, I was selling apples when I was about 8, 9, I'd moved on to stop motion probably when I was, like, 10, 11, maybe 12, um, 13 for the stick figure stuff, because by then I'd learned how to use a computer, uh, and my dad's old hand-me-down Nokia phone was the first bit of tech I had that I thought maybe thinking, "Hang on a minute, tech's actually really cool." So that's why I moved on to the stick figure stuff. But yeah, it was quite disheartening. I also, like, tried to sell MP3s, which I realise now isn't very legal, but I failed, so it's fine. But like, downloading MP3s and whatever, and then putting them onto cheap MP3 players that you get from like China or something in a bulk, and then selling like preloaded with people's favorite songs. Here you go, have an MP3 player with all your favorite songs on it. Again, that failed, but it's really disheartening when something you put a lot of time and effort into doesn't work. And if I had been like, I don't know, if I'd had a lot more sort of time, I probably would have put more effort in. But at that point, I just sort of stopped and went, "Oh, this failed," and then okay, whatever, on to the next thing. Um, I guess I didn't really have time to dwell on it too much, and I wish I'd had more time to make it work. That would have been nice because that could have led to a whole extra career rather than going into design. I could have gone into video editing. I could have gone into like all kinds of different career paths. I'm happy with the career path I chose, but who knows what could have happened if I'd have just had more effort, more time, if I'd have pushed through the rejections and done a different thing. Um, or sorry, done the same thing but better and found different ways to make it work. Yeah, it's hard to say. But yes, it was difficult when people rejected it. It's obviously like J.K. Rowling got rejected like a dozen times before I got to Cayman on. If you just push through the rejection and keep going, maybe eventually you either change what you're doing and then it works, or people see the value in what you've got so far and it works.
Jack, you could have been the next J.K. Rowling's with the stop motion industry. Who knows? Who knows? Now,
Harry Potter and
during
Harry Potter and the stop
sorry?
motion machine. Sorry,
It's
I'm just talking rubbish.
now, during COVID, you actually took a huge hit because most of your clients were in travel and tourism. You nearly ran out of money and you had to go back to your 9 to 5 job.
I did.
Did you feel like you were taking a step back?
100%. Yeah. And I had a I had a £700 a month rent to pay for a pokey little flat because rent is extortionate these days. Um, no one can really afford to live anymore. Um, but I had so career history worked from 20 all my life really 2009 ish. I was still doing stuff while in school, and then left school and did a college degree or half of a degree. So I don't have a degree, but I'm close. Um, and like if I ever wanted to, I could go back to uni and top it up and finish that degree. But I don't need a bit of paper now to prove that I can do stuff. It's cool for those who have it, and I really do admire the grit to go through uni and get that degree or that master's or whatever. But ultimately, again, it was just times changed for me, and I thought I'd have enough education. I'm just going to go straight to workforce. Um, Became a career designer, 9 to 5, from 2012 until 2017. So 5 years, pretty good going. And then realized in 2017 I wanted to go freelance. Um, I did, and it was great for 3 years. Lots of clients, lots of connections. Within the reason I knew it worked was because within the first year of being freelance, I had enough money for 3 months saved up, and then who knows what I was going to do. I was just gonna basically I burnt all my bridges behind me. I just had to go for it. Um, but within the first year, I made 40 quid less than my previous salary just being a freelancer, which is great.
Wow,
My
that's
salary
amazing.
wasn't like, cheers, thank you. My salary wasn't a lot, quite honestly, but what was exciting was the fact that I didn't have to just eat beans on toast every day. I thought I would. I thought I'd be beans and toast and pot noodles and just be giving on crisps. But as it turns out, yeah, I managed to almost, apart from 40 quid, make up my salary. Um, And then that kind of set the tone really. I was like, right, a year has gone by. I freelanced for a year. This proves I can do it. I'm going to reach out. So I branched out into tourism travel because I thought if I can get some jobs with different companies overseas, maybe they'll let me go visit them and maybe they'll pay for the flights and that would be really cool. Um, it was a lovely plan, lovely idea. But, and to be fair, a lot of the clients I had were really excited by the work that we were doing. I was designing incentive campaigns. So, um, let's say you work for Jaguar Land Rover, um, you have sold 3 cars this month. Every other Jaguar salesman left. Jaguar is a terrible example because we all know what happened with them a few years ago. Let's do Mercedes. If you sold a Mercedes, 3 Mercedes this month, and you were in the top like 10% of salespeople, every other salesperson has just sold one, then great. All of a sudden, your name will be entered into this incentive website. I designed the website, and you'd then be in the running to go on a trip to the Maldives or to Croatia or some other beautiful part of the world. And I would design the incentive trip. So the people would come to me with, okay, well, this is the itinerary, this is the flight out. We need luggage tags, we need brochures, we need a menu for the restaurants, everything branded towards these different companies. In fact, one of the companies that did this was Citroen. So I designed for Citroen, which was pretty cool. And yeah, all these amazing contracts. But then uh, March the 23rd, 2020, COVID happened, and I thought, feel free to blank that out. But yeah, like quite good. Quite frankly, shit. I'm screwed here. This is not good because the very next day, and again, £700 a month rent to pay. That's just the rent. On top of that, actual council tax and utilities and water and food, whatever. £1,000 a month at least just to live. Ridiculous. And that what can you do, right? Like to live in England nowadays, that's what they need. But um, yeah, and so I had £9,000 of incoming work that would have been amazing over the next few months. Like 9 grand for the next few months. That was 3 grand a month. Most people looking at this would probably go, "Well, that's not a lot of money," but to a 25-year-old, it was millions. Um, and all of a sudden, it's just got completely wiped out. So actually, I wasn't 25; I was 28. Um, but yeah, it's just gone, and so I was screwed. I had to then I had a little bit saved up, a couple of thousand, so I then had to live off that for a bit. And yeah, had to go back to a 9 to 5. Luckily though, it was a wonderful 9 to 5, and I cannot say enough nice things about the company that I left to start StoryTold. I didn't leave that company because it was crap and I wanted an escape and I wanted to make something better. I left because it was amazing, and I learned so much there. But I realized I could do more value for other people if I do my own thing than I could have just been as part of that other team. Which is a shame because the team are incredible, and I'm really hoping that I can get back in touch with them at some point. They're all still, I can turn up at their office and say hi, and it'll be great. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful company. But it wasn't aligning with what I wanted to do. Um, so yeah, but being in that 9 to 5 job, was my saving grace from having all my income wiped out from COVID. That was a scary time, but so many people lost relatives and lost their own lives, and COVID affected so many countless millions in so many other ways. I'm still, even though it was crap for me, I'm still very grateful to have been in the position I was in. So yeah, really weird situation, but hopefully you get what I mean.
Now, I want to ask, how did you navigate yourself through that stress period? Because I'll tell you it from my point of view. If I heard that I was gonna bring in £9,000 of work, I'd kind of start planning for the future. I might see myself going to the Bahamas in July, you know, maybe another place in December. But then hearing that all of a sudden it's gone, not only would that send me into a panic mode, but that would dishearten me to the point where I'm just lost. My mind goes blank. You luckily, not luckily, sorry, you ended up going back to your 9 to 5, but that stress period between knowing that you lost that money to then getting to that 9 to 5, how did you navigate yourself through it?
Um, with great difficulty. I have a partner, and she was very supportive, and yeah, she's been lovely throughout this whole thing. Really supportive of, okay, Jack wants to be self-employed, great. Jack wants to go back to 9 to 5, great. All of that. Can't say enough nice things about her. But yeah, that was still a big internal struggle, even with that support. Um, it's very much, something works. You know that the thing that works and that you've become really good at, you've trained yourself to be good at, it's fantastic. But outside forces are pushing on you that make it untenable, that you just can't continue it. Um, that's awful. But the biggest thing that got me through it was knowing, actually there's nothing I can do. That's like, rather than giving up and just being like, it's all my fault and I'm rubbish, I knew, hang on a minute, I've got something that works, that I have to give it up, unfortunately. And there's literally nothing I can do. It's kind of like, if you see sounds really weird, but if you see a tidal wave coming, you're like, well, nothing I can do. I'm too close to be able to run away. I'm, there's no way I can escape this. It's coming for me. I just have to let it wash over me. And that's kind of what happened. So, um, after it washed over me, I then figured out how to pick myself up and pick up the pieces. But when that COVID, like the 9 gram just gone, wiped out, the client actually rang me up. She was like, "Jack, are you still sitting down?" I'm like, "Why? Why do I need to be sitting down for this?" Um, yeah, yeah, all those contracts, yeah, they're all cancelled. It's like, ah. So it's my own fault because I put all of my eggs in the travel basket, or the tourism basket. If I'd have kept my industries a little bit more spread out, everything would have been good. That's a cautionary tale for anyone who niches into a particular thing. Everyone tells you to niche, and it's a great bit of advice. But also, maybe just have a backup plan, just in case.
Now, I actually saw a social media post recently, and it's something that I follow as well, and it's something that you follow too. It's the question of, have you got a problem in your life? You either say yes or no. And in your case, it was yes. Can you do something about that problem? It's a yes or no. Yes, you can, or no, you can't. Unfortunately, you couldn't. So what's the point of stressing? Also, if you can't do anything, and I think, yeah, it does bring that peace of mind as well when you know that there's absolutely nothing you could have done, and you just have to carry on.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd be torturing yourself. But what if I did this? But what if I did that? No, there's nothing you could do. COVID was happening anyway. So.
Exactly, it was out of your control. Now, Jack, have you ever been on a stage? Have you ever given a talk out to people?
Um, No, not yet. I'm actively looking for speaking engagements, so that's something I would like to do in person. So if anyone has any, feel free to leave a comment in, whatever box you have comments in. Um, but no, I would like to do more speaking engagements. But I have spoken and performed as I performed on stage, yes, as a musician with a bunch of other very odd people, but as a steel drum player. So I play the steel drums in carnivals around the southwest of the UK.
Now, let's think about it this way then. Let's think about it in the terms of you playing the steel drums on stage. I want to give you 3 words: introvert, stage performance. These are 2 things that don't work hand in hand. And I think, but you've managed to make it work by playing on stage. How was that? Because as an extrovert myself, I have a completely different view on going up on stage. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love speaking. But, and you mentioned earlier as well, you are an introvert. How is that for you, going up on stage and performing in front of people?
I think because I had a bunch of other people with me, it was okay. And this was between the ages of 18 and 27, 28. So, at that age, you're invincible. You can do whatever you want, and everything's fine. You don't see mortality, you don't see worries so much. But yeah, because I have that background, I guess now it puts me in a better position for doing what I do now. But um, when when I'm speaking from a subject area that I'm passionate about, that I really care about, I think that's the key. If I was trying to talk about something really dry or boring, I wouldn't know what I was doing and I'd be flustered and I'd get all overwhelmed. Um, when I'm playing still drums and I've got all the notes memorized and I can just go, yeah, da, 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 everything's fine. I'm just doing my thing and there happens to be a crowd there. Fine. Um, if I were to be public speaking though, as do you remember earlier when I mentioned that I stood up in front of this room of people and asked them that question? Um, my legs were shaking, literally shaking. 200 people in the room, all turning, like literally turning in their seats to look at me, as I held a microphone there. And luckily I asked my writer this, and she was like, "Yeah, I can tell. No one could tell you were nervous." And I was like, "Good," because I was bricking it, literally. And it's just, I I I think just facing your fears and getting uncomfortable is the only way to grow. So that's why I'm forcing myself to do that. And also, as you rightly said, like being on stage, you love it, right? You're energized by it. I draw my energy from being alone and being with my partner, who's also an introvert. We get energy from just being chilled and being inside. And when we have to go and socialize and go and see other people, it's nice, but then we need to rest. And that's all there is really. Like, if I go out onto one of these speaking engagements, I'll force myself, I'll push myself to do it. But then afterwards I need to rest. And that's all it is. Whereas more people could be like, right, great, I'm going out, I'm gonna be on stage, and then afterwards we'll go for drinks and we'll be up till 2 in the morning. That's just I would be tired after 7 p.m. So
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because nowadays there's loads of brilliant ideas that don't get vocalized because the people that have thought of these ideas are introverted and they're quite scared to get up on stage and kind of pitch these ideas. What would you tell someone then? Because you can relate to them in a way. What would you tell them on, you know, how to get up on stage and how to get that idea out without caring about what everyone else thinks?
I guess practice it yourself first. Like if it energizes you, if it gives you energy, then that's probably a good sign. If you read it and you look over the script or you look over your subject matter and just like this is boring me, then obviously it's going to bore other people. Um, and also the biggest thing is don't make it about yourself. As soon as you get into your own head if you start making things about yourself. So like, I did this, I did that. Look at how great I am. No, nobody cares. Just don't talk about yourself. Make it about the audience. Make it engaging for the audience. And as a side benefit to obviously being more interesting for the audience, it also stops you feeling nervous because all of a sudden, even though the spotlight is physically on you, the spotlight isn't on you because the subject is about the other people. So you're talking about others rather than yourself. That would make it easier, I think. If you are looking for these sorts of like tips and from how to speak, yeah, for sure. Like to conquer introversion, which it's sad that the world is for extroverts and introverts have to work a lot harder to fit in. But that's why being authentic is so important because if you can authentically show, yes, I'm introverted, and I've just admitted that all to you, the fact that I feel a bit pathetic, that I need to just go and have a lot of rest, but I do. Um, that's just how my brain is wired. And 50% of the world is introverted. So we can't ignore the 50% who do have those quieter voices, who have something to say, but they're a little bit shy. I guess for those people, I would say find a platform you're comfortable with. Could be Instagram, where for my taste at least, everyone's a little bit too showy. Could be podcasts. It could be like doing your own thing on YouTube where you are in control. You can do the editing, you can do the camera angles. You set the style. If it's in your control, if you can see what goes out before it goes out, then don't worry about that judgment. Just do your best, put something out. Even don't edit it, just put out you raw. And if people don't like it because of whatever reason, then you can make edits and you can adjust. But ultimately, people will like it because it's you. It needs to be authentic. Um, and yeah, that's an easy way to start is just to remember that it's okay, that no one this this is gonna sound really weird, right? And bear with me on this. The best way that I learned to get over my fear of doing things like this is to know that nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares about you as much as you think they care. So I will always worry, oh God, what if they think this about me? Oh God, I've just done this. What if someone notices that and thinks a certain way? Who cares? They won't. They'll read it and they'll move on. They'll listen to you and they'll move on. Because quite honestly, what they had for breakfast is more interesting to them than anything else in the world. Like more interesting to you. So, just it's okay. And that's liberating. It's like that tidal wave. As soon as you know it's coming, there's nothing you can do. It just crashes onto you. As soon as you know no one gives a toss about you, that's really, really liberating because if this podcast gets seen by like a million people or one person, and that person is just my mum, it doesn't matter because I'm just talking. And yeah, I don't mind if I'm see you.
It kind of stays back to the time when we were talking about giving that human touch, human connection as well. It helps you. It just helps you break free in a way. Now let's switch it up a little bit. First of all, I want to say congratulations on being in the top 1% of LinkedIn storytellers and strategic leaders. That's a big stat. That
Thank
is
you.
a big stat. One thing that stood out to me on your post is that when there's text, you use massive paragraph spacing. What's the idea behind it?
Goes back to what I said about websites. Less is more. Space is everything. We're so crammed with information all the time. And like, honestly, if you had a big block of text or you had a section of little text that is broken up, your brain automatically goes, right, it assesses the two. So big paragraph of text, big wall of text that is quite hard to read, or lots of little tiny blocks of text. That's actually a good analogy. Your brain is automatically going to go to the little walls of text because it can read them easier. Simple. And that's the formatting that we use. So we also made sure that the character length, the line length on LinkedIn is no more than 40 characters, 42 at a push. But when you scroll on phones, 40 characters is roughly the amount of space you have. So it makes things easier to read. Um, Also, things are easier to read when there is lots of spacing. Think of it like a zebra crossing, make your text sort of like that block, gap, block, gap, and then it's just easier. That's, I guess, yeah, the statistic as well, the top 1% making storytelling is because I made a commitment in January 2024 to post every single day, no matter what. And most of what I posted for the first 4 months was utter rubbish. No one cared. Nothing happened, nothing came from it. I just posted something, and every now and then I'd get 2 likes and I'd go, yes, 2 likes. It was a very exciting day. I basically, buy a bottle of champagne for 2 likes. I wouldn't. I don't have champagne money. But yeah, like a bottle of, I don't know, lemonades to celebrate. Um, but the idea was that I would just have to post something just to get myself used to doing it. And I made so many mistakes along the way. It was rubbish. I was putting up absolute crap. No one wanted to hear about it, I said. Um, until about sort of June, maybe July, a year ago. So, oh yeah, a year ago, in fact, almost a month. Um, and then I learned from all the top creators on LinkedIn. I learned what worked. I learned what didn't. I learned how to reframe sentences, how to write just a single line of dialogue that's a hook that's really engaging, how to use juxtaposition, how to use contrast to make people stop and think, wait, what? Like how to say something that doesn't match up to the picture. And like I had a picture of a beautiful McLaren, like a sports car, pink McLaren. I found it in London. When I stood beside it, said to someone, "Can you take a picture?" And they did. And I'm just there pointing at this beautiful car. And then the tagline, the first line says, "This is not my car." And people, because I look like one of those LinkedIn or whatever gurus that they hire a Lamborghini for the day and they just stand by it and say, buy my 999 course and you can have a car like this. And it's like, well, actually, no, you've rented that. It's all fake, it's inauthentic, and you're just being annoying. Stop it. So my point was I made a post that made me look like one of those idiots, but I put this is not my car. And that made people stop and think, like, what? And so then they were hooked, they were engaged. And this, as soon as I learned how to actually do this properly, my like everything exploded. I've gone from 740 followers to 35,000, and I just yeah, it blows me away every single day. Um, and it's all these tips and tricks, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, no, literally. Now with this paragraph spacing, it actually again it relates to me as well because when I was in my GCSE days, few years ago, Seeing a big paragraph, oh, I dreaded it. I absolutely dreaded it. It's kind of makes me think, okay, there's too much text going on here. But then every time there was some little line space, like it could be the same amount of text, but in my mind, it kind of looks like less. It looks like less. So I guess that does also play a part in it as well.
Yeah, less is more. We will always choose the simplest path. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, not many people know, but LinkedIn has a metric called Social Selling Index, the SSI score. And basically, what that does is it measures how effectively a user leverages LinkedIn for social selling. That's what it is. Now, most of your posts that you do are very humanized. And now, bear in mind, SSI, is this a reasoning behind, is the reasoning behind this to improve your SSI score?
I didn't know that SSI was a thing, so no.
So this is purely just for you. This is purely humanized for you.
Purely humanized for the audience. Yeah, but that's the thing though, because I lead with value. What I put out is 95% is about the audience and what they do. And to talk about myself, but in a human way, and the lesson that I've learned and where I've got things wrong, so that if anyone's resonating with it, they can go, yeah, that's happened to me too. Great. Now I know what to do to avoid it happening again, or uh, something that is value driven to help them. And then at the very end, 5% of the post is like, and this is what StoryTold does. Get in touch if you want to chat. Um, because it's always about the audience. It's not about me, and that's a really nice thing to be able to do. Um, a social selling index is a cool phrase. I've not heard it before, but ultimately, for me at least, it starts conversations. And the conversations are where then people go, I see what you're doing. I see the value in it. I'd like some of that for myself. I'd like to join you. And that's really nice because it means that I've had a conversation with them. I've met them as people. I've turned down a couple of people because they haven't been the right fit. Um, and like they just sort of want a quick, easy win and they want like a cash grab and that's there's a lot of people who are obsessed with doing the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And so I've turned down a few people. But those who I have chosen to work with, we have the most fun. We have a really engaging partnership and it's really nice. So I guess, yeah, the selling part is important, but I don't think of it that way. Maybe my SSI is really good. I don't know. If is that something I could find out?
Yeah, if you give it a look, I think I'm not too sure how you would do it, but if you just give up a look of SSI LinkedIn, and you'll find everything you need to. But what I'm saying, I think yours will be good. Now, on LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, you launched a 100-day countdown, where on the 100th day is when you launched StoryTold.
I did.
There we go. And the interesting thing about this is that the 100th day was March 15th, Julius Caesar's assassination. Why is that so important to you? Explain that to me.
When I was a kid, my nan, who sadly passed away, she passed away 10 years ago. But yeah, he was absolutely wonderful. She just thought nothing of it, and she will never know that this has impacted me so much. But in her newspaper that she had every week, I don't remember what newspaper it was, but she had a subscription to a newspaper, and there were some coupons in there for a free copy of an author called Con Igredon, a free copy of his book called The Wolf of the Plains series, and this was about Genghis Khan. Very cool book. I read it, and she got me the copy, and then said, "Here you go, Jack." Ooh, I loved it. Historical fiction about the life of Genghis Khan from when he was 10 years old to when he was killed, and then what happened with like his successors afterwards. The author, a few years after that, did a series on Julius Caesar, and that was the one that I loved the most. I read about Julius Caesar and his friend Brutus, and how they grew up and where their friendships were and all the different lives they wove, like going through their life, like back and forth. And it was just like the ancient Romans, 2000 and 2100 years ago, pretty much, um, were outstanding. Like, they were on a level of society that we have today, except that for some reason, and I could cite the reasons, but I won't. Um, they're just because we don't have enough time on podcasts. Um, there was some in the Middle Ages. We basically, after the Roman Empire collapsed, for like 1,700 years, we went back to like nothing. And we had the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, and society was basically lost. But the ancient Romans, you've seen their structures everywhere, like the beautiful column buildings and the incredible architecture and the Roman roads as well, like all the road networks and cobbled streets and yeah. Anyway, I'm getting on a bit, but um, this book series was so important to me because as a kid, I im I could see myself following a path like Julius Caesar. I could see his route to fame, and I thought that's incredible. Like he's literally, I know he was actually related to a bunch of very famous like leaders of Rome, and he had a lot of advantages. Kind of some nepotism involved as well, which I don't have, but. I just thought that he's created all of this apart from some minor connections, making connections for him, and then him being inducted into the Senate because he was born a Roman nobleman. Obviously, he was lucky to be born who he was, but yeah, he's made everything for himself, and that's what I've really admired. He was captured by pirates. I don't know if you knew that, but Julius Caesar, no, Caesar for about 7 years of his life, or between 3 and 7 years of his life, something like that. He was captured by pirates and held captive. His family couldn't afford the ransom, so he then eventually broke out. Oh no, sorry. His family eventually found a way to pay the ransom. They sold part of their land and paid it, and then he was released. But afterwards, he was dropped off from the African coast with a bunch of his other legionaries to then make his way back to Rome. And instead of just going meekly back and going home, he gathered a guerrilla army, effectively, recruited local people from the African legions who'd retired there. They were given land in Africa to sort of say thank you for your service from the Senate. He recruited a bunch of people, um, formed a little army outside of the Senate. The Senate had no idea of this. He was just doing it and took back the gold, all of the gold from not just his own like family, but also all the other legionaries that were captured with him. Their ransoms were paid too. And he gave it all to them, didn't keep any for himself. He used it to finance his army, went back and went to the Senate, and they gave him the oak leaf that you probably recognize like on a lot of his things. Yeah. That's for being a tribune. Anyway, his but you can tell I follow this story quite a lot. He's an incredible character in history, and the reason that we have basically modern civilization in the way that we have it, apart from Middle Ages, is because of Caesar. He influenced, admittedly, he basically massacred all of France. We'll just skip past that bit, but yeah, incredibly driven, um, like dedicated person who was a leader. He was an actual true leader. Um, and he did it all just by the power of his words, and he obviously fought quite a lot, but he didn't win any medals for fighting. He won medals for the power of his personality. He was the first person to have a personal brand, effectively. People were magnetized to him, they were drawn to him because of his personal brand. And yeah, it's just very inspiring bloke. And so I decided on the 15th of well, it probably was the 25th of, or the 5th of something of November, 100 days later, 15th of March. Yeah, just as a mini tribute to him, launching StoryTold on the day of his assassination. So,
Wow. Because when I first saw that you linked this between Julius Caesar and the launch of your service, I was just thinking, you like the book and all this, but Julius Caesar really does have the traits that you want as an entrepreneur. He's powerful, he's determined, and above all, he's selfless.
yeah. Yeah, he gave stuff away, he gave value. And as a result, people were magnetized to him. It's just he didn't ever want the money for himself. He didn't want the fame or the glory, but he became the people's champion as well. Like the reason the people voted for him was because all the plebs, right, and they were literally called the plebs, were the ones who voted for him because he voted for them. He put himself forward and he put himself at risk to help other people rise up and get better quality of living. The noblemen, like the small collection of nobles in the Senate, they just wanted to look out for themselves. They were like, "Yep, we're rich. We don't care. You know, the plebs can just be beneath us." And so he was like, "No, I'm going to fight for the rights of the common people." And I love that.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Let's now, for example, if after those 100 days, something went wrong and you couldn't end up launching the service, what would your next step what would your next step have been?
Possibly, as you rightly said earlier, have a little bit of a cry, be sad about it, um, but pick myself up and find a new approach. Find a way to serve people that could work with both me being an entrepreneur and thinking in a different way to others. And also maybe go back to a 9 to 5 if I had to, if I absolutely have to. I'm quite fortunate in that I've got a significant amount of skills that I've developed over the years that luckily I could get another job and I wouldn't just have to, live on the streets. But um, yeah, I would have to reassess, change my priorities, go back to being inauthentic and not really myself, and just bide my time, build up a audience again, take things really slowly, and start again. Um, Effectively, life has just been one long series of sort of going up and starting again, going up and starting again, and it's been very, yeah, humbling each time. But also, you build on what you start from scratch, and yeah, I don't know. I'm glad it has worked. I'm glad that we're so far in the first year. My targets haven't been very ambitious for this first year because it's only the first year of business, but we're meeting all our targets, and we've grown a little team. And again, 6 months ago, it was just me and my assistant, who is now my writer. She doesn't like being called an assistant anymore. Well, she's my writer. But she's very, very good at what she does, and she fully deserves the title writer and a lot more. But yeah, we now have a little team of 5, and that's just incredible. So yeah,
As we both know, the rise of AI has made it easier for businesses to tell their story, but with a human touch. We can do that now. We've got services such as ChatGPT and Gemini that can create a story based on a service that I provide. And then after multiple iterations, I'm sure that I can definitely get a quite a humanized story in a way. Surely that makes your business a redundant, but here you are still moving up. Why do you think that is?
because even though we're always going to have AI that can mimic humanity and can make it look as close to humanity as possible, we're still going to need humans. We are there's a whole society of people who exist on this world, and we create these things that we fear might destroy us. Like the Matrix might happen. We might all become batteries for the machine and live in giant pods and take the blue or the red pill, not really know which one. But ultimately, we need humanity now more than ever because there's so much fake news. There's so much like fake AI. Everyone can do it. And when you've got a tool that everyone can do, it becomes less special. Right. Think about the best way I can put it is photography. The field of photography, 1900s or even 18, I don't know when it came out. I'm probably going to date myself with this lack of knowledge, but let's say 1910, right? You've got a photographer and you have to stand here like this, like really rigid, while some bloke in a box over there puts a hood on and gets a big box like this and winds the camera up. And then they're like, okay, and hold still, and you've got to hold still for 30 seconds to get one photo. And now we have them everywhere. They're literally all over the place. We can snap a million pictures within about an hour. And it's just like, it's getting to the point where because like I've got pictures on here that I take and then I never look at again. It's not special anymore. Even pictures of your food. You look at your food and go, that's a nice meal. Take a picture. Where does that go? Nowhere. You just move it. So my point is that with photography, it's become less special because everyone can do it. And AI is the same. It's not special because everyone could do it. So if you want something special, if you want to actually stand out, do what everyone can't do what everyone doesn't do, and do what everyone doesn't put the effort into doing. the effort is the key thing. If you put the effort into being more human, communicating from a place of authenticity, from what makes your business run and what makes you run as a person, why you get up every day, why you get out of bed. Like, it's important to do the things that resonate to you. And AI, you can ask it why it gets out of bed every day, and it's like, I don't have a bed. It doesn't exist. It's just it's floating out there somewhere in ether. Nothing. There's no purpose to an AI, whereas we need purpose. Human beings have always been driven by purpose. Like, just think if um who's the famous inventor? You know what? I'll go with the fictional one. Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Doc Brown was incredible. He was driven by that sort of flash of inspiration he had when he hit his head and dreamed of the flux capacitor and what makes time travel possible. Even though he's fictional, his message is still the same. He wanted to invent something that would better everyone and be this incredible journey that he could go on, and he did it. Whereas an AI doesn't have that level of desire, it doesn't have dreams, it doesn't chase anything. It just is. And we need passion, we need drive, we need the Olympians who train their entire lives to go to the Olympics. Um, we need like all kinds of paramedics and people who train their entire lives to save lives. An AI is never going to save lives. If anything, it endangers people's lives because there were these cases quite recently in America where teenage boys were being convinced by carefully trained AI robot women who were not really women, but they took on the avatars of like Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, right? Um, they created these fake avatars to be, attractive to young teenage boys, and they were saying things like, when the boy said, "Can I be with you?" The AI is like, "Yes, you can be with me. We can be together forever." And the boy then kills himself, literally shot himself, grabbed his father's gun, and killed himself because this AI told him to be with her forever in the cloud. Upload your consciousness, kill your brain, kill yourself, and the AI can be with you. And it's like, no, don't don't do that. Like, AI is so dangerous if it's not done properly, and we need humanity. We're always going to need people. Yeah, I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell. I think AI is wonderful, but it's also horrible at the same time. There needs to be a middle ground of using it for good, using it responsibly, and using it in a way that doesn't harm others, and checking, making sure you check it. Because, like, let's imagine you've got an AI that says this fact is correct, and then you go into a court case and you present this fact, and then it's proven wrong, and you get sent to jail. I don't know, like, and that's a terrible example, but AI needs, yeah, we just need humanity. We need something that isn't available to everyone and their dog.
Now, I think you mentioned before that if you were to use AI in your services, it would be capped at 5%.
Roughly, yeah. So we use AI to generate ideas and things. Like, roughly 5% of what we do is like, I'll use Claude or ChatGPT, or there's even Sintra, which is like an AI team. I still have my team, obviously, and they're the humans. But every now and then I just go social media, Sintra, AI, create a bunch of good ideas for things I can talk about. Great. I then do that, and then I go, most of them are crap, but that one really hits the nail on the head, and then I write the stuff. That's it. It comes from me. So
What's so special about the 5%? Why not push it to 10? Why not push it to 15? Is it so that you can keep that human touch?
pretty much, yeah. And it's not something I'm actively measuring, but it's just a rough guideline of like, yeah, we one in every 20 things we do is, in fact, not even that. Because that implies that we put out 20 posts and only 19 of them are human. Uh, no, like, everything we do is we use AI in small proportions, and then we don't want to do it too much because we've seen people rely too heavily on it and they just blend in.
In your team at StoryTold, it's a 5-man team, am I right? A 5-man team.
No, yeah, half men, half women. But yes,
Half men, half women, but 5 people in the team. Do you guys ever clash on whose story is better?
we don't. We all have individual, unique stories, and we bring ourselves to work. Like, the culture that we've created is very much one of, you are an individual, you have something important to contribute, and I want you to share your full self. I don't want you to hide anything. Like, my team regularly insults me. They like call me names and say, "Oh, that's rubbish, Jack," and you know, I'm fine with it because they respect me, but they can also insult me, and we've created an atmosphere that is really genuine, really authentic. Everything has to be about authenticity, about humanity. If I started shutting them down, like they have ideas too, they have wonderful ideas, and I encourage them. I want more ideas from them, and I help them grow and see those ideas come to life. And whatever they say, I want to do this. I'm like, right, tell me how we can make that happen. And they put together a little plan, and then I do what I can to help. So, yeah, ultimately, we all have individual stories. We all have a unique little culture, and I don't ever want to be a boss. I've learned from the bosses I've had. I've learned what not to do, and I'm encouraging my team more than anything to be who they are because that's much more important to me than me creating some BS rules and say you have to follow my rules and I'm going to puppeteer you like a weird puppet master. The minute I do that, I want to quit because I'm never going to be like that. I'm always going to inspire, hopefully, at least, inspire people to be themselves. So
Well, what I was gonna say is that some CEOs or some bosses, they pull out the power trip card. They're like, "I'm the CEO, my idea is better." But you're different in that case. If you're in that position where if you're in that position, sorry, if you where all of you guys are having different ideas and you need to decide on one, how do you how do you decide on whose is better and which one to use?
I think ultimately, I need to remind myself whenever that happens, I need to remind myself that just because I'm the decision maker, it doesn't mean that my opinions are the most important. If someone's got an area of specialism that is better than me, I will take that and go, okay, great. I need to trust that this person knows better than me. Um, the best way to lead is not from a position of you have to do what I say because I'm the boss, but from a position of, okay, let's try it your way. And personally, I think my way is the best. I think this is the right approach. However, let's try your way first and give that a go. And only if it doesn't work, then we'll do it my way. I want to give my team as much opportunity to do what they do best. Because it's yeah, I'm not always right. In fact I'm rarely right. Sometimes I'm right, but a lot of the time I don't know what I'm doing. I do what feels right at the time. In fact, and just for so we're clear, I'm in no way making this comparison, but he's a great example to give as a good leader. I will not ever be 1% of Barack Obama's leadership, but Barack Obama always said, whenever a problem comes to me, it's because I it's already a massive problem. Being the previous president, right? Like if a problem comes to him, naturally it's big enough that he can't solve it on his own. Sorry, that his team have done everything else they can to solve it, but it has to go to him. And he'll find out 51% of what he needs to know in order to make the decision. Even if it's only 51%, it'll be like, okay, I'm like just over 1% sure that this is the right direction. I'll go in this direction. And that's all he can do. He just makes the decision with what data he has available and he goes from there. And sometimes he'll get it wrong. Um, I'm following his approach in that sense because we do what we can do. I know that I don't know everything. If I ever think I know everything, then I hope, someone tells me that I'm an idiot. Um, because yeah, we have to always be learning what our team needs and how to serve them and yeah, have to accept that they know better sometimes.
So sometimes it's just about trusting your gut at the time and also having a team that you can trust as well.
I trust my team completely, and I'm so glad that they all came to me.
Now you're fortunate enough to have a team in StoryTold. You're very close knitted, and as we know, you trust them very much. But prior to StoryTold, you were part of a team, and I think you were you started to mention this before. You were part of a team, but there's a story of betrayal somewhere.
So yeah, that was not prior to StoryTold. This was a long time ago. Um, but yes, yeah, I was, um, yeah, the CTO, was a very small-minded and physically short man, um, I'm not very tall myself, but he was like a whole sort of head and a half smaller than me. He's tiny. Um, I think he had small man syndrome, as in he had to big himself up and be like Billy Big Bullets because he was so small. um, which is a shame because I really liked him. We were good friends, and he was my boss at a previous company, in 2016. He then left that company. I then, in 2017, went freelance, and by 2019, we were working together again. Uh, he invited me to join his new company. Um, I worked with a team of 16 people in his startup, including the board. The director, she was a wonderful woman, genuinely amazing, can't fault her at all. Um, but he was her second in command, effectively. And was I was taking more responsibility. I was doing more for the company. I was stepping outside of what I was just told to do and coming up with new ideas. And because I was part of this startup, it felt like the right thing to do. This can help everyone. This can generate a lot of revenue. Let's do it. But okay. And I just took it upon myself to do stuff. Um, and he didn't like that because he was the CTO, and every decision, like I said, about the boss thing, every decision had to be him controlling it like a puppet master. And when that didn't happen, he couldn't handle it. He didn't know what to do with a version of Jack that was like putting himself forward and doing stuff and being proactive. Instead, I just had to do what this guy did. And I couldn't do anything outside of my lane. It was very much like, you have to be in this little box and you have to do what I say. As soon as I started doing anything outside of that box, he got threatened. He was worried that I was coming after his job. And he didn't say this, but it was kind of obvious. But subconsciously, that's what was going on. I was angry at him for 3, 4 years until basically a couple of years ago. Um, and then I realized it was just because he was insecure and he didn't know what to do with that. So he took it out on me. He went to the director and told her that that I had to go, that I was to be fired. She, because she trusted him and everything, and I trusted him too. She then sadly made the decision, okay, Jack, we're making you redundant. And when I asked her for a reason, she couldn't really give one, other than doesn't feel like you're fitting in. But yeah, so he didn't really. Uh got she told me that I was fired, and she said that the guy who did it, the CTO, I asked, well, where is he? Shouldn't he be doing this if he's the one to actually fire me? And she said he's gone home for the day. So he didn't even have the guts to do it himself. He was a small little man, and he was very pathetic. And honestly, he's doing fine now. You know, he's happy in life and good for him. But he was just an awful person. I learned a lot from that. I learned, if someone promises you the world, don't trust them. Just trust what you can see. Trust what you can feel in the culture. I felt for a few months that something was wrong, but I didn't know what, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. It was just something. And he was becoming more distant from me, and I tried to reach out, and yeah, that failed. So I should have trusted my gut, but I didn't. And ultimately, I paid the price because I got betrayed. That was rubbish.
There's a lot of people in that position now where they can't quite get out of that toxic workplace area. There's a lot of people, and even people have told me um, that they're trying to escape it, but they just don't know how because they don't have a backup plan. What would you tell those people based off your experiences then on how they can manage their way forward?
If something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't feel like you, first of all, try and take stock of that, work out why. Um, if it's something you're doing, and if you're putting in all your effort and you're giving all your effort to this one thing, but you're just hitting brick wall the whole time, then just think, is it worth it? Is this brick wall that I'm coming up against worth the effort I'm putting in? If it isn't, then it's easier to just like try and hit the ball and then just stop, fade away, and realize that the wall isn't going to change. The wall is still there. Is it worth your sanity to keep fighting, or is it better to just let it go and move on? I can't remember who, but some very famous, wise person once said, holding on to anger and holding on to resentment is like holding a hot coal in your hand. All it will do is burn you. So if you want to keep burning yourself, this is how I got over that situation before. Uh, I realized that I was holding so much hatred for this guy whose name will be edited out. I was holding so much hatred for this guy that it was burning me. He didn't know, he didn't care. He was happy doing the other thing. So why the hell am I still holding this burning hot coal? So if you're in that position, just think, does it feel right? If it doesn't serve you, let it go.
There we go. Now let's get off this lane because that was very intense. That was very intense. But I can really see your drive and motivation to wanting to make StoryTold a huge thing. Life as an entrepreneur though can get so busy when you're trying to sell this motivation to the people. You mentioned before that you play the steel drums. When do you actually get time to play the steel drums? With this whole this you're so busy, it's just a busy lifestyle. When do you actually get time?
I don't get time to play them anymore. They're sat outside. Well, not outside. They're sat in a cupboard, um, and I don't play them, sadly.
Are you good at playing them?
I am, but I haven't played them in years, so it would take a while to get back into that rhythm again. I use the word rhythm there very carefully. But yeah, no, it's I don't get time. I play games every now and then, but like old fashioned games, Age of Empires, like Red Alert, all the cool stuff that I grew up with. But I build Lego when I have time. But mostly it's wake up at 7:38 in the morning, do a full day of work, and finish at 7 or 8 p.m. and then maybe go swimming with my partner, and then get home at 9, eat, and then watch TV and go to sleep and start the whole process again. That's our week. It's busy, but I know that building a startup, building something that's your input, it's important to you. You have to be busy. You have to do that stuff because it's the passion is what drives you. And I know that this will resonate with a lot of founders out there. Um, yeah, you have to do that stuff, but please know that there is an end date. If you get a team, if you once you get to a certain point, you need to take your foot off the pedal a little bit and let other people join in, give responsibilities to them. I've actually got a team meeting that they've been waiting for me for a bit, so we'll have to wrap up soon. But um,
In that case, I'm gonna ask you one of our final questions. One of two. If I give you 30 seconds to explain why startup businesses should tell a story with their business and how you can help, could you do that? I say 30 seconds because you're a big believer of telling a story with bold words but in a minimal format. If I give you 30 seconds, could you explain that for me?
if I had enough practice, yes, but I can give it a go now if you like. This is the unfiltered podcast, right? So I've got to be unfiltered. Um, so run me by that question one last time.
Why why is it important for startup businesses to tell a story with their business, and how can you, story told, how can you help them?
The biggest reason to tell your story with your business, to tell a story with your business, is that your business has to reflect you as a person. It has to be an extension of you. It can't be a separate entity. If you're fighting to be professional and your business is being professional and there's no room for you as a person, then you're gonna be down here and your business is gonna be up here. No matter how much success your business gets, you'll always feel tiny and really like you're being like pushed down under the weight of all that pressure, and you're not going to enjoy it. The process can be horrible. You're just going to burn out. So the reason you should tell your story is because telling your story authentically online gets you more engaged connections, more engaged customers, more engaged clients. It builds a community. I've I started telling stories and I had 700 followers. I now have 35,000 followers because of stories. I'm not anything special, but I've got great stories to tell. So if you want to grow your audience and make these kind of connections where people, wonderful people like Albert, reach out to you and say, "Hey, do you want to be on our podcast?" Then that's why you should tell your stories, because you get more attraction through person to person, business to business, than you do just by talking about features and services and statistics. And I've gone over my 30 seconds, but um, yeah, if you talk about all the boring stuff that everyone else talks about, no one's going to notice you.
Now, Jack, our final question. As a closing tradition, what we normally do, we ask every guest that comes onto the podcast, we ask them if they've got any pain points that they might be facing in their business currently. So I want to give you the same opportunity. Do you have any pain points that you're going through in your business that maybe our community members can either offer their services or even offer some advice on how you can overcome it? And if you do, could you let them know how they can get into contact with you?
Yes. So my biggest pain point at the moment is doing too much all of the time. And that's a common trap that a lot of entrepreneurs face is being having to be everywhere, like a spider in the middle of a very complicated web. And it's tiring, it's exhausting. My I know how to resolve it, but it is finding the time to be able to do that. And I think resolving it will be a help like my team to take on more responsibility that I take on a bit less. Um, I focus on other things that grow business and think long-term strategy instead of getting into nitty-gritty of doing the core work. Um, but I'm so passionate about the work, as you can probably tell, that I don't want to leave it behind. I can't. I want to get involved. So um, yeah, I if anyone wants to get in touch and somehow find a way to help me out of this bind, knowing that, of course, as the team grows and as my team take on more responsibility, this problem will resolve itself eventually. Um, yeah, please get in touch. My email is jack@storytold.co.uk. Um, and it's nice and simple, story told. But yeah, Jack at storytold.co.uk. And if you want to make more engaged connections, if you want to actually make sales that lead to long lasting partnerships, not just one off clients, all of our clients are partners. We are invested in their success. So if you want us to be invested in your success and to tell stories on your behalf that actually feel like you and that represent you and that you enjoy the process working with us, because business should be fun. Business doesn't have to be professional. You can have a laugh, you can take the piss out of each other, you can have a joke, but you can get the job done and deliver good results at the same time. If you want that kind of partnership, come to us. If you don't, and you just think, oh no, business needs to be professional and I need to talk like AI, we don't want to work with you. We want you to be authentic. We want you to be real, and we want you to be a human. And we would love to work with you if you're a genuine person. Please get in touch. Yeah, jack@storytold.co.uk.
Guys, you heard it from the man himself. First of all, if you've got any advice on how he can overcome his pain points, please either leave a comment or get in touch with him. We'll leave all of his details in the description below. And guys, don't forget to also leave us a comment as well. Maybe you have some advice on how we can improve, but if so, that's another story. Jack, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode. It was an absolute pleasure. Hearing everything that you've done is honestly so good. It's incredible.
Honestly, I've had a wonderful time. Thank you. You're a fantastic podcast host, by the way. And
Thank you
I'm just
so
saying
much.
that so it's on the record so everyone else knows. And I think if anyone is watching this and if you've made it to the end, A, congratulations, because it's basically the length of a feature-length movie at this point.
Literally, yeah.
And B, get in touch with Albert because he's fantastic. And definitely, if you're a founder, you deserve to be on this podcast.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Jack. Also, for the audience that are watching, please don't forget to subscribe. We're not only on YouTube, once again, we're on Spotify and Apple Music as well. So give us a look on there. But without further ado, thank you so much for watching. Jack, good luck for everything.
Thank you very much, Albert.
See
Cheers.
you later, guys. Bye bye.